What's up, guys? Happy Friday. I'm excited to bring to you this week's top trending stories that I found interesting in music this week. Sabrina Carpenter has announced that she's got a new album coming out and it's called Man's Best Friend. And it's not so much that the album is controversial, but the cover itself. Now, before we get into that, let's just explain that we're not expecting a new album from Sabrina Carpenter this soon, especially on the back of Short and Sweet, which was such a big hit. I think everybody's really surprised that there's a new album coming so soon. I've seen people actually likening it to Rihanna when she was, putting out banger after banger after banger, when she sort of got that initial growth. And so people are saying that Sabrina's sort of doing a similar thing. So the new album, Man's Best Friend, is coming out August 29th. Let's just put that out there, right? The reason people are upset is because of the album cover. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the album cover. I'll put a photo of it here so you can see it. It's Sabrina. She's on the floor. She's on all fours, kind of like a dog on a lead, people are saying. Her hair's being pulled as though she's on a lead. And people aren't exactly very happy about it. They're going in the comments saying things like, thanks for putting back women 100 years. These images are clearly designed for the male gaze and are not empowering. I know the songs will probably be ironic and female centric, but something about the way that man is holding her hair makes my stomach churn. I love you, girl, but what is this? People aren't exactly happy. And I suppose I'm questioning what I think about it. I don't necessarily think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be, in my own opinion. But I'm curious as to what you guys think. Is it satirical? Is it ironic? Or did she really just miss the mark on this one? And what do you think is going to be of the new album? And Sabrina Carpenter, wherever you are, if you're listening, when do you sleep, girl? Because she's been touring. She's been at Primavera last week. She's doing it all. And props to her. Props to Sabrina Carpenter. Second story of the week, Addison Rae has released her new album, Addison. Now, this album has gotten a number 8 on Pitchfork, and people aren't exactly happy about that. I don't think people can quite understand that a woman like Addison Rae, who started her career out on TikTok making TikToks, can now be a pop girly or a pop star. But the thing is, name me one one person who is an artist today that isn't trying to get their start on TikTok. That's where we're all headed to. That's where I'm headed to right now with this content, exactly trying to talk to you through a platform like TikTok. So when people are saying and criticizing her for being like, well, she's just an industry plant, it's not really authentic, she's just moving into this space and doesn't actually know what she's doing, I don't really agree with that. And people are outraged that it got an 8 on Pitchfork. But if you listen to that album, in my own personal opinion, it's a fucking banger, okay? She's having fun with it and she's paying homage to the past. She's looking in, she's doing the research and she's going, what worked in the past? What do I love? We can see, what have I written down here? We can see in High Fashion that it pays homage to Britney Spears in the early 2000s. The Diet Pepsi music video has a nod to Madonna's 1984 MTV VMA performance. And even at the 2024 MTV VMAs, Addison Rae actually wore an outfit that also paid homage to Madonna. And I really believe Addison Rae knows what she's doing and she's having fun. And I just think also, the album itself has been written with 2 female writers and I think 3 female producers, 2 of which worked on the entire album through it. And she also posted on her Instagram a video of herself writing the lyrics to headphones on. And you can just see that she's a part of this whole creative process and she's really putting her all into it and she really does care about the art. And so I think it's just an easy out for people to sort of hate on Addison Rae at the moment and be like, well, she's not really a pop girly, but she's 24 years old. She's come from being a teenager. And so I think personally, let her do her fucking thing. She's making good music. Diet Pepsi is a banger. I am obsessed with that song, High Fashion. And you don't have to like the album. You don't have to listen to the album if you don't want to. But I don't really think that the argument is that she's not talented, she doesn't know what she's doing is really a valid argument, because I think that there's a lot of thought that's gone into this entire aesthetic and to this album itself. And I'm not saying Addison Rae is like the number 1 singer in the world, but I don't also think that's what Addison Rae is trying to be. So I don't know. My personal opinion, I love Addison. I think she's doing amazing, and I think that 8 on Pitchfork was deserved. Story number 3. Let's talk about the Tony Awards, particularly the play or musical called Oh Mary. I've only just learnt about this. It was written by a person named Cole Escola, right? And the first time I was hearing about this, I was listening to the Trixie and Cardia podcast on my way home. And they were talking about this play, Oh Mary, oh Mary, oh Mary. They were saying things like, I'm jerking it to Abraham Lincoln in this economy. And when Trixie and Carter are saying they're jerking it to Abraham Lincoln, it's piquing my interest. So I went and did a little bit of research and I'm looking into who Cole Escola is. Fast forward 2 weeks and I'm on TikTok and they're non-binary, literally winning a Tony for this like musical. And so anyway, all I'm trying to say is I don't know much about the Tonys, but this is a story to me that seems really interesting because we don't necessarily see Broadway in like mainstream media a lot, but this one is getting a lot of attention. I also absolutely loved the way that when Cole was running to accept their award on the stage in this beautiful gown, like sprinting up to the stage. Yeah, I'm just Oh Mary has piqued my interest, and I think I just want to mention it because if anybody's listening to this that has any information or ways that we people in Australia can learn about this particular musical, I'd love to know as someone who is also like, I'm not a big musical fan, but obviously we've seen Wicked coming out last year. We've got the second movie coming out this year. I feel like musicals are now in a place where they're a little bit more cool. At one point in time, it was sort of like the cool thing to say, no, I don't like musicals. I don't want to listen to musicals. But I think now it's like not as like lame, if that's a way to say it. And that, yeah, I'm excited to see Oh Mary. I really want to book a ticket to New York. But yeah, I'm really happy for Cole. And I just wanted to shout out Oh Mary because I just think let's see more of this sort of art form in mainstream media. Story number 4, Australian music. Now, Australian music is never going to be my favorite. Well, it's always my favorite topic to talk about. It's never going to be a topic where I'm like, we are doing the best that we could possibly be doing because we're not. And I read an article this morning on The Guardian that I wanted to talk to you about. And I'm just going to read this out to you guys because it's a bit devo. It's a bit depressing. But it's something that I think I always want to be raising awareness for. So Australian music is making waves globally. Kid Laroi, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Amel and the Sniffers. There are all these exports that we're seeing overseas doing really, really well, right? In fact, 80% of Spotify royalties for Australian artists now come from overseas. However, back here in Australia, the picture is less rosy, and a Creative Australia report reveals that only 8% of the top 10,000 streamed artists in Australia in 2024 were Australian. 8% of the top artists streamed in Australia in 2024 last year were Australian artists. Okay, so that means there's 92% international, 8% Australian. Now, this is a historic low, and despite 71% of Australians expressing their pride in local music, The Guardian reports that only a third actively seek it out. So if you're listening to this, I hope you're seeking out Australian music. Streaming algorithms and the sheer volume of global music, 120,000 tracks are uploaded daily to platforms like Spotify, which is making it challenging for local artists to gain visibility. Many listeners feel these algorithms hinder the discovery of new Australian talent. Other countries like France and South Korea have successfully boosted their local music through curated platforms and national support. Similarly, over 40% of Australian listeners, especially First Nations individuals, youth and regional residents, support the idea of Australian-only streaming services. So let's just think about that. Could we get a platform where it's literally you go on, it's Australian artists only, and this is how we can filter out sort of the noise. You can still listen to Spotify. Go ahead, do you. But if there's like, an hour in your day where you're like, I want to support our culture, our arts industry, maybe there's a platform out there. That would be really, really a cool way to do it. So basically, you need to be listening to more Australian music. That's my message on story number 4. And then story number 5 is a sad one. Brian Wilson has died. So if you're not familiar with who Brian Wilson is, he was the famous singer from the Beach Boys. They, of course, wrote songs like God Only Knows What I'd Be Without You. He's died at the age of 82, which is really, really sad. And he, redefined what pop music could be with pet sounds, good vibrations. God only knows. These weren't just songs. They were emotional architecture. They were incredible. God, you think of the Beach Boys, you think of those harmonies. It was next level and it was beyond. And he basically turned those harmonies into something that were just holy, like godly, otherworldly. God only knows. But while the world was hearing brilliance, Brian Wilson was silently suffering a lot of his life. Behind the music was a man battling intense mental illness, depression, hallucinations, and addiction. He met a man named Dr. Eugene Landy in the 70s, and he was his therapist who would end up taking over his life in one of the most disturbing chapters in music history. Dr. Landy didn't just treat Brian, he controlled him, he moved in, he took over his money, isolated him from his family, dictated his diet, meds, and even inserted himself into songwriting credits. Brian wasn't living, he was trapped, he was sedated, and he was exploited for a lot of his life. But this isn't what I want to talk about. Obviously, it's something I have to highlight in Brian Wilson's story. But what I would like to bring to light is that in the early 90s, Brian Wilson met Melinda, his wife, who was a former model turned car salesperson. She saw what was happening and refused to stay silent. And with her help and his family's support, a court finally stepped in and banned Landy from Brian's life for good. And from there, Brian got better. He rebuilt relationships. He toured again. He released solo albums and he was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He finally got to live life on his own terms, supported by a woman who loved him and helped him reclaim his autonomy. So yes, Brian Wilson has died. It's tragic. We have lost one of music's greats, but he didn't leave us broken. He left us with music that still heals, and he survived a story that most people wouldn't. And so I just want to say rest in peace to Brian Wilson. And thank you for the harmonies, and thank you for fighting and for giving us all that you did. Your song is one of the Beach Boys songs are To My Wedding Song, and it's not a happy day that we say we're not going to be hearing from Brian Wilson ever again. So rest in peace to Mr. Wilson. And thank you for listening to this week's updates. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a very good weekend, and don't get too hungover because I'm not drinking this weekend. So maybe actually you should go and have a couple for me. Okay, bye guys.